This is my favorite freaking camera that I've ever owned. I'm not even gonna string you along. This is the Nikon or Nikon if you stay overseas, ZF or ZF if you stay overseas. In this video, I'm gonna tell you the things I dislike about it, the things I like about it after using this camera for about a year. Let's get it. What up, y'all? It's Tyson here, and I'm back with another video. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. Remember to be thankful for your freaking life today because you did not have to have that. Before we get on with the meat and potatoes, a few things I need to say. First of all, this video is sponsored by Artlist, but Nikon did send me this camera about a year ago. However, I'm under no obligation to make any videos. They don't even know I'm making this video, and they don't get to see this video before it goes up. As always, whether I'm being paid or not, my opinions are my opinions. They cannot be bought, and I'm gonna keep it funky in this video just like I do every other video. I do have the luxury of having several cameras. I'm a freaking camera channel, right? So that means that I get to pick and choose the cameras that I want for the features that I want within those cameras, right? And with that said, the Nikon ZF is specifically my fun photography camera only. Let's just call it my everyday camera. That's not to say that it's not a capable video camera, because it is. It can shoot up to 4K 60, 10-bit, 422. It's a 24 megapixel camera. It's got amazing autofocus, amazing stabilization, in-log, and all this other good stuff. It's really a fantastic camera, and it can be used for professional work if you're thinking about picking up one of these as your only camera. I'm just throwing it out there because I don't use the camera for video. I only use it for photography, so take that for what it's worth. I'm gonna actually talk about the things I dislike about the Nikon ZF after using this camera all over the freaking world for the better part of a year. Let's start with the major elephant in the room, and that is ergonomics. Now, it's no secret that this is a retro-inspired camera. Nikon intended it to be that way. With that said, like, it is not ergo-friendly at all, y'all. I'm just letting you know, it is not a comfortable camera to hold, especially when you put on bigger lenses. It is one of my biggest gripes with the camera. It is not friendly at all. Now, they do make a bunch of grips for the Nikon ZF. This one's made by Newer. I know Small Rig makes some, and they have a lot of other companies out there that make them. I will leave a link to this one in the description. And I mean, the grip does work. It really improves the ergonomics, but you know, it's still, even with this grip, not the most comfortable camera to hold. Now, is this a deal breaker? Clearly it's not, because I've been using a freaking camera all the time for a year, but it's just something that you need to be mindful of. This is not the best camera for ergonomics. Now, the second thing I want to bring up is, although I do keep the screen closed the majority of the time, I can't ignore the fact that, in my opinion, out of all the cameras I use Nikon cameras, Blackmagic cameras, Sony cameras, Lumix cameras, DJI cameras. Nikon menus are absolutely the worst out of all of them. And this is just, you know, my opinion. Some people might feel differently. Now, obviously, if you use the menu for long enough on any camera, you'll learn it, you'll get used to it. But I will say, using this camera and its quirkiness in the menus, even the quirkiness with the dials, you know, it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. And when I say quirkiness with the dials, although this camera did just get a version 2 firmware update, which fixed some stuff, the way it handles things like auto ISO and the different modes and stuff like that can be confusing coming from other cameras. The third thing is, this is a big camera, y'all. I know I mentioned that this is an everyday camera for me, and when I think a lot of y'all think about everyday cameras, you probably think about like the Fuji X100V or like the Leica Q343, those smaller cameras. This bad boy is a chonker. You are going to notice the size and the heft of it, so that could be a disadvantage for some people. Although it is heavy, it feels very, very well made. It feels substantial, but you are absolutely going to notice it carrying this camera around. There's one thing I forgot to mention. I wish that the ZF had a joystick on the back of it besides this D-pad. I mean, the D-pad works, but you know, having a joystick, especially when it comes to choosing autofocus points and all that stuff, it would just be so much better. Now, the next thing that really bothers me about the Nikon ZF is the fact that it doesn't have full-size HDMI. Some of y'all gonna be like, well, Terry, you just said that you don't shoot video. Why are you bothered by that? Well, there's times where I want to record the screen on my ZF, like to capture the autofocus system and all that other stuff, like using my Atomos Ninja V, and having to use a freaking dongle on this little flimsy HDMI port is just the worst. Moving on to the next thing that I don't like, and I might be nitpicking, but these are the things that have really bothered me over the course of using this camera, is the fact that, number one, the memory card is inside the battery door. I cannot stand when cameras do that. But number two, is instead of it having dual full-size SD card slots, it only has one SD card slot and a micro SD card slot. Now, some of you might say, well, Terry, you should be happy that Nikon decided to go with the extra slot, which I am. I'm glad that they have a second slot in here. However, You can only get to this memory card by taking the freaking battery out. It's to a point where I just leave the memory card in the camera and use it as like internal storage, and if I ever need to, I just put another memory card in there. So I guess it's like a good and a bad, but I just wish that there were 2 full-size SD card slides, just like every other modern full-size full frame camera. My last thing I didn't like about the ZF that has been recently fixed is the fact that you couldn't save custom white balance, tint, all of that stuff on the ZF. Because you know, if you get a retro inspired camera, likely you want to install film simulations and recipes and stuff on here, and there was really no good way to do that before because you couldn't save custom white balance and tint and film grain, all that other stuff. Well, version 2 update just came out, and that gives you the ability to custom make, you know, film recipes online on a computer, and then you can send them to the camera. And while this works just like it does on the Z6 Mark III, it is nowhere near as efficient as, let's just say, something like Lumix Lab on like the S9 or the S1R Mark II or S5 2X. Those cameras really set the bar on how easy it can be to transfer looks, LUTs, color recipes, all that stuff to and from camera, edit them, all that other good stuff. So while it's good that the ZF did get that, I would still like to see Nikon flesh this whole system out a little bit more. Now, before we move on with the things I love about the ZF, let me tell you about this new thing Artlist just launched called AI photo and video. For people who need like stock footage, this is so game changing because you can create, in a sense, your own stock footage that doesn't look anything like everybody else's using AI. So I actually used this in a recent vlog of mine when I went to Italy. Y'all will be seeing this on the channel soon, but I was in the train station talking about the high-speed train. You know what I forgot to get? I forgot to get a video of the Italo red high-speed train. So when you go into the AI photo and video section, you'll see that there's a bunch of images in here that you can go in there, you can test them out, you do everything with prompts on here, but I actually deleted that. And I just typed in, I wanted a red Italo high-speed train sitting in the train station, and I pressed generate. This looks very, very similar to the Italo high-speed train that we actually rode on. Well, I actually wanted a video because it was a vlog. So all I had to do was press animate. Now it does give you its own suggested prompt. However, I deleted that and I just put in the prompt that I wanted. So I just wanted a clip of the train sitting there with a slow pan to the right with people walking down the sidewalk, and then I pressed animate. It will take a few minutes because it is doing all of the heavy lifting, and then it spit out the exact video clip I was looking for, and all I had to do was drop that into my vlog. Now, if you're wondering about usage rights, copyrights, all that stuff, just like everything else Artlist offers, whether it's the music, sound effects, AI voiceover, LUTs, any of that stuff, it's all protected, so you don't have to worry about it. And if you use the link in the description and sign up for the annual max plan, which is the plan you want because it gives you all of this stuff, I could actually save you 2 free months on that annual max plan. So make sure you hit the link in the description. Thank you to Artlist for sponsoring today's video. Now let's talk about the things I love about the ZF. Now I know I mentioned at the beginning of this video that the ergonomics were this freaking camera's gift and its curse, and I meant it, right? So although the ergonomics are not that great, the ergonomics are also what make this camera totally special, right? All of the switches, all of the buttons, all of that stuff, that real manual analog feel that this camera gives you just cannot be beat by any other modern mirrorless full frame camera out there. I mean, look at it. You cannot walk past the Nikon ZF and not want to pick this thing up and take freaking photos. And that is what the magic is behind the Nikon ZF. This is a conversation starter. I've been out to so many places and people have asked me like, what film camera are you using? I'm like, bruh, it ain't really a film camera. You thought, but it's not. And that is what I love about this camera. The fact that I can operate this totally manual, especially if you put on the manual lens. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Or you can run it in one of the semi-automatic or automatic modes and still get fantastic results with this thing, are truly what makes the Nikon ZF magical. The next thing with the ZF are just the way that the images look out of this camera. Now, do I have other cameras that spit out amazing files that have more resolution and dynamic range? Absolutely. However, the files that come out of Nikon cameras are they just make you feel all warm and freaking cozy. Nikon has my favorite colors straight out the camera than all of the other cameras that I own. The low light capabilities of this thing also is really, really good. So with that, like, you can really push this up into like 6400 ISO and still get really, really clean results. The files out this camera are freaking gorgeous, especially in black and white, which leads me into my next thing. This camera has a freaking black and white switch on it. I know that sounds silly because all of these modern cameras can shoot black and white in camera. That's nothing special, although this does have a few different black and white color profiles. But the fact that I don't have to dig into a menu, okay, and all I have to do is flip a switch to get into black and white mode is just something so satisfying. In addition to this being like a retro inspired camera. Like the whole formula just works together, and it works together so good. There's so many times like I look through the viewfinder of this camera to take a photo, and you know, I've used all these other cameras and I've never thought like, yo, let me try this in black and white. The fact that I have a switch that I could just switch it over to black and white right then and there and preview it, like it's just something so satisfying about it. I can't explain it to you, and it's just one of the things that make this camera special over all the other cameras that I have. Now the next thing that makes this camera super special is the fact that you can adapt so many different types of lenses to it. Nikon's flange is really, really versatile. So what that means is you can get old Leica glass and slap it on here. You can get all types of adapters. Like I'm using this adapter right now, I got off of Amazon, and I'll leave this in the description, right? But this allows me to put Sony glass on here, so I can mount my G Master lenses and all that other stuff, or I can buy other retro inspired lenses. So for example, this is the Voigtlander 50mm f1.2 Nocton. This is actually the Sony E-mount version, and all I had to do was pick it up and put it on the adapter. Now, because it has electronic contacts, it gives me all of the information in my EXIF data. So it shows me my aperture and all of that other good stuff, right? But what makes the ZF really special, and also Nikon's other cameras, is the fact that it still gives you subject detection and focus confirmation even when you are using manual lenses. So having this means that, let's just say you're taking a photo of somebody, right? Well, it will detect the eye, and then once you nail focus on the eye, it'll turn green. And then once you punch in to check focus, guess what? It punches right to the eye or face, whatever subject that it detected. This, in addition to turning on something like focus peaking, makes it so that when you're using manual lenses, you hit focus all the time. And again, you got to think about this as a whole package. It's just so good. It's something like I've never used on any camera. While we're on the subject of autofocus, if you do use an autofocus lens, the ZF has really, really good autofocus. It's got subject detection. They just added birds in with the V2 update if you're into birds and all that other good stuff. But the autofocus system, I should have said just focus system, because I mean manual focus and autofocus system. It really just makes using this camera so much freaking fun. The last thing, and this might be silly, just listen to it. Oh, let's take a picture, hold up. It just sounds so good, bro. Like, I don't want to rizz this camera more than it should be, but like the whole package, from the sound to the way it looks, to the operation, to the manual focus confirmation, to the fact that I can adapt the other glass. I got this retro inspired high powered camera. It's just something that you won't understand until you go frickin' pick one of these up. So I will leave a link, affiliate link in the description to get all of this stuff that's on my camera, the newer grip, the little soft touch focus button up there, the lens, the adapter, all that other good stuff. I'll leave everything in the description. Make sure that y'all go over to Artlist and check out that new AI photo and video section on there. It's so fire. I know some of y'all are kind of scared of AI, but honestly, it's pretty remarkable, especially for creators, what you can do with it. And it's either you get, you know, adapted to AI or you let it roll you over. Which one are you gonna do? Go in there, try it out. And again, I can save you 2 months free on the annual max plan, but you gotta hit the link in the description. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments section. We are almost at 100,000 subscribers, so make sure you subscribe if you like this video. And until next time, I'm out of here. So tight shirt, Terry Warfield, piece of chicken grease. Much love, y'all. Peace.